I'm Esther, 67 years old, and I never thought I'd be packing my bags at my age to leave my son's home. For years, I'd swallowed my pride and accepted being treated like an afterthought by my daughter-in-law, Megan. But that text message about heating up their leftover scraps after being excluded from her celebration dinner, that was the final straw. I simply replied, "Okay." But what I did next changed everything in our family forever. Before I continue my story, let me know where you're watching from in the comments below. And if you haven't already, please hit that like button and subscribe to hear more stories about standing up for yourself when enough is enough. I've been a widow for 12 years now. My husband Robert passed away from a sudden heart attack, leaving me and our son Kevin to lean on each other. I was a kindergarten teacher for 35 years before retiring, and I poured all my love into both my students and my only child. After Robert died, Kevin and I grew even closer. He would come over every Sunday for dinner, and we talk about everything from his work as an architectural engineer to his dating life. When Kevin met Megan 8 years ago, I was genuinely happy for him. She was beautiful, smart, and seemed to make him laugh. I remember the first time he brought her to my house for dinner. I had prepared all of Kevin's favorites, and Megan complimented my cooking. "This is delicious, Mrs. Walker," she said, with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. I should have paid more attention to that detail. Megan worked as a marketing executive for a major tech company, and her career was clearly her priority. From the beginning, I noticed how she would check her phone constantly during our family gatherings, often stepping away to take calls. Kevin would look at her, adoringly impressed by her ambition and drive. The first time I noticed something was off was during Kevin's birthday celebration that year. I had planned a small gathering with a few of his close friends, but Megan arrived and immediately started rearranging everything. "This setup isn't really working," she said, moving the decorations I had carefully placed. Kevin just shrugged and gave me an apologetic smile. 5 years ago, they got married in a lavish ceremony that Megan's parents mostly paid for. During the wedding planning, my suggestions were consistently dismissed. "That's a bit old-fashioned, Esther," Megan would say with a tight smile. The wedding itself was beautiful, but I felt like an afterthought. The mother-son dance was cut short because Megan said they were running behind schedule, and my table was placed far from the main wedding party. After the wedding, Kevin and Megan started looking for a home. I had been living in the house where Kevin grew up, but it was too big for just me. When they found their dream house, I made a decision I thought would bring us closer. I sold my home and gave them the money for their down payment. In exchange, I would live in their guest house on the property. The guest house was charming, with a bedroom, small kitchen, and sitting area. I thought it was the perfect arrangement. I could maintain my independence while still being close to my son. And when they had my grandson Lucas 3 years ago, I was right there to help. I happily took on childcare duties for Lucas, while both Kevin and Megan worked. I also cooked meals, did laundry, and kept the house tidy. I didn't mind helping out. Family supports family after all. But Megan had very specific rules about how everything should be done. The laundry had to be folded in a particular way. Meals needed to follow her nutrition guidelines. Even the toys had to be organized according to her system. I tried my best to adapt and follow her preferences. It's her home, I would remind myself whenever I felt frustrated. But as time passed, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being treated more like unpaid help than family. The pattern of being excluded from family decisions became more apparent as time went on. One summer, they planned a vacation to Florida and booked tickets for Kevin, Megan, and Lucas. When I asked if I might join them, Megan looked surprised. "Oh, we assumed you wouldn't want to come. You always talk about how flying bothers your arthritis." The truth was, I had mentioned knee pain once after a long flight years ago. I didn't go to Florida. Megan's dismissive behavior manifested in small ways too. If I made a suggestion about Lucas's schedule, she would say, "Well, the parenting books recommend otherwise." If I cooked a family recipe, she might remark, "This has so many carbs, we're trying to cut back." Every comment chipped away at my confidence. What hurt the most was watching Kevin gradually withdraw from our relationship. My once loving son, who would defend me in any situation now, stayed silent when Megan dismissed my input. He would give me apologetic looks, but rarely spoke up. It was as if he had decided that keeping peace with his wife was worth the cost of his mother's feelings. 2 years ago, on my 65th birthday, they forgot until the day of. I had dropped hints for weeks, even mentioning that I was looking forward to entering my official retirement age. The morning of my birthday, I waited for a call or visit. Nothing came until evening when Kevin rushed over with a hastily purchased card and a potted plant still in the store bag. "Sorry, Mom. Work has been crazy for both of us." I smiled and pretended it didn't hurt. Last Christmas was particularly difficult. I had spent weeks carefully selecting gifts for everyone, especially a beautiful handcrafted wooden train set for Lucas. Imagine my surprise when visiting a neighbor in January. I saw the exact same train set in their grandson's room. "Oh yes," my neighbor said cheerfully. "Megan gave this to us," said Lucas had too many toys already. She had regifted my present without even telling me. I started noticing my personal items being moved or disappearing from the main house. Photos I had placed on the mantel were relocated to a drawer. A quilt I had made was removed from the living room sofa and placed in a linen closet. When I asked about these changes, Megan would say, "We're trying to declutter. The minimalist look is more modern." Despite all this, my grandson Lucas adored me. His face would light up whenever I entered the room. "Grammy!" he would squeal, running to hug my legs. These moments kept me going, but even our relationship was controlled. "Lucas needs to stick to his schedule," Megan would say, cutting our playtime short. Or, "We don't want him getting too attached to just one person." About 6 months ago, I finally spoke up during a family dinner. Megan had made a comment about elderly people and their hoarding tendencies while discussing my craft supplies. "I am not hoarding," I said firmly. "Those are materials for projects I make with Lucas. And I'm not senile. I'm only 66. The table fell silent. Megan's face turned cold. I was just making a general observation, Esther. No need to be sensitive. After that night, I started keeping a journal. Writing down my feelings helped me process them, and looking back at the patterns made me realize this situation wouldn't improve on its own. My friend Jane, who I've known since college, would listen to me over coffee in her apartment downtown. Esther, you deserve better than this, she would say. You're not a servant or a babysitter. You're family. I knew she was right, but I worried about damaging my relationship with Kevin and losing access to Lucas. So I continued to accommodate, to shrink myself, to stay quiet. But deep inside, something was building. A sense that I shouldn't continue this way much longer. 2 days ago, everything came to a head. We were having breakfast together in the main house, as we sometimes did on Saturdays. Lucas was happily munching on the pancakes I had made in the shapes of dinosaurs, his favorite. Kevin was reading news on his tablet, and Megan was checking her emails on her phone. Suddenly, Megan looked up with a broad smile. I got it. The promotion went through, she announced. Kevin immediately put down his tablet and hugged her. That's amazing, honey senior marketing director. We knew you would get it. I smiled genuinely. Despite our differences, I never wished Megan ill. Congratulations, Megan. That's wonderful news, I said. Megan was practically glowing as she scrolled through her phone. We need to celebrate. I'm making reservations at Riverside Grill for tonight. Kevin, do you think you can get Lucas ready by 6? I took this as my cue. I'd be happy to watch Lucas if you two want a night out to celebrate. I offered, assuming they wanted an adults-only evening. Oh, we want Lucas to come, Megan said quickly. He should be part of celebrating Mommy's success. It'll be a family dinner. The words family dinner hung in the air, but no invitation was extended to me. Kevin glanced my way briefly, then looked down at his coffee. I waited for someone to say, "You'll come too, Esther," but the moment passed. Well, congratulations again, I said softly, standing to clear my dishes. I'm sure you'll have a wonderful time. The rest of the day was a flurry of excitement. Kevin and Megan discussed what they would wear. Lucas was told he could have a special dessert at the restaurant. Nobody mentioned my inclusion or exclusion. I was simply invisible. At 5:30, I watched from my guest house window as they all emerged dressed in their finest clothes. Kevin in a suit, Megan in a stunning blue dress, and little Lucas in adorable khakis and a button-up shirt. They piled into their car, laughing and talking. Not one of them looked back at my window or came to tell me goodbye. I sat in my rocking chair that evening, flipping through old photo albums. Pictures of Kevin as a little boy, riding his first bike, graduating high school images, of the proud, loving son who once couldn't imagine making a decision without asking for my input. The phone rang, startling me from my memories. It was Jane. How are you holding up? She asked. She knew about the promotion and had guessed I might be excluded from the celebration. They didn't even consider inviting me, I said, my voice cracking slightly. I'm just the convenient babysitter who lives in the backyard. Esther, Jane said firmly, you've been patient for years. You've tried to accommodate Megan. You've given them your savings, your time, your love. At some point, you need to stand up for yourself. But what about Lucas? What about Kevin? Do you think this arrangement is healthy for Lucas? Seeing his grandmother treated like hired help, and Kevin needs to remember the mother who raised him. Her words resonated with me, but I wasn't ready to make any drastic decisions. I'll think about it, I promised her as we hung up. Around 11, I heard the car pull into the driveway. Through my window, I could see them return, still laughing and happy. Lucas was asleep in Kevin's arms as they entered the house. Not one of them glanced toward my cottage. I turned off my light, not wanting to have an interaction that would spoil their happy evening. But, more importantly, I didn't want them to see my tears. The next morning, I stayed in my cottage instead of going to the main house as I usually did. Nobody came to check on me or tell me about their evening. Around noon, I heard them leave again, the sound of car doors slamming and Lucas's excited voice fading as they drove away. It was 2 hours later when my phone buzzed with a text from Megan. Heat up the leftovers in the fridge. Don't waste them. No, please. No, if you're hungry. No, we thought you might enjoy. Just an order, as if I were the help. No mention of why I wasn't included in the family celebration. No acknowledgement of my feelings at all. I stared at those words until they blurred. Years of small slights of being marginalized in my own family came rushing back. The forgotten birthday, the regifted presents, the moved photographs, the interrupted time with Lucas, the dismissive comments, the constant feeling that I was an inconvenience rather than a beloved mother and grandmother. I walked to the main house and opened the refrigerator. There they were, the leftovers, these scraps of food in takeout containers, clearly the unfinished portions from their plates. Not even a fresh, untouched dish they had ordered for me. Just their scraps. I closed the refrigerator and leaned against the counter, suddenly seeing with perfect clarity what my position in this family had become. I wasn't a cherished elder. I wasn't even a respected equal. I was the help. The convenient childcare, the cook, the cleaner, the provider of money when needed. My hands shook as I typed my reply, okay. Just that one word, but behind it was a decision that had been years in the making. I wouldn't be heating up anyone's leftovers. Not today. Not ever again. I returned to my cottage and called Jane. Can I stay with you for a while? I asked when she picked up. Of course, she replied without hesitation. What happened? I explained about the dinner, the text, the leftovers. Jane's outrage on my behalf was validating. You should have called me last night. Come over now. My spare bedroom is yours for as long as you need. I'll be there this evening, I promised. There's something I need to do first. After hanging up, I sat on my bed, processing the emotions flowing through me. There was hurt, certainly, anger too, but, surprisingly, there was also relief. The decision to leave felt right, like setting down a heavy burden I'd been carrying for years. I called Jane back to discuss logistics. Are you sure about this? She asked gently. You know you're welcome here, but it's a big step. I'm sure. I replied, my voice steadier than I expected. I need to do this for myself. I can't keep accepting being treated this way. I'll make up the bed and clear some closet space, Jane said. And Esther, I'm proud of you. I started packing methodically, taking only what I truly needed. Clothes, toiletries, a few cherished photos, my journal. I left behind furniture and appliances. They had been part of the deal when I sold my house, after all. As I packed, I drafted a letter in my mind. I wanted Kevin and Megan to understand why I was leaving, but I didn't want anger to be my last communication. After several attempts, I wrote from my heart. Dear Kevin, Megan, and my precious Lucas, by the time you read this, I will have moved to Jane's apartment. This isn't a decision I have made lightly or suddenly. It's been building for years. Kevin, I love you more than words can express. You are my son, my heart. But somewhere along the way, you stopped seeing me as your mother and started seeing me as an obligation, a convenience. That breaks my heart. Megan, I have tried to respect your home, your rules, your parenting. I've stepped back when asked, helped when needed, and given what I could. But I cannot continue to live where I'm valued for what I provide rather than who I am. Lucas, my sweet boy, Grammy loves you endlessly. This isn't goodbye. I will always be your grandmother, and we will find new ways to share time together. This isn't about one dinner or one text about leftovers. It's about years of feeling invisible and unappreciated. It's about needing to reclaim my dignity. I hope this creates space for us to build a healthier relationship based on mutual respect. With love, always, Mom/Esther/Grammy. I sealed the letter in an envelope and placed it on the dining table in the main house. Then I did something that might seem strange. I went back to the refrigerator and took out all the leftover containers. Instead of heating them up as instructed, I transformed them. I arranged the food beautifully on their best plates. I added fresh herbs from my little garden to brighten the dishes. I baked a quick batch of dinner rolls, the ones Lucas always said smelled like heaven. I made a simple fruit tart for dessert, using the berries I had been saving. I set their dining table with care, placing my letter prominently in the center. Then I added a special drawing that Lucas and I had made together last week, where he had written Grammy and me in his wobbly handwriting. I took one last look around the house where I had lived for 5 years, but had never truly felt at home. I placed my key on the table beside my letter. Then I called a taxi and carried my 2 suitcases outside to wait. As the taxi pulled away, I didn't look back. There were tears on my cheeks, but there was also a lightness in my heart that had been absent for too long. I wasn't there to see their reaction when they returned home, but Kevin told me about it later. They had gone to a movie after lunch and returned in the early evening, expecting to find me there as always. The house was quiet when they entered, but the scent of freshly baked bread filled the air. They followed the smell to the dining room, where they found the beautifully arranged table. "Bah!" Kevin called out, confused by the formal table setting, but no sign of me. "Are you here?" Lucas ran to the table, excited by the sight of the fruit tart. Grammy made dessert. he exclaimed. It was Megan who noticed the letter first. She picked it up, glanced at it, then handed it wordlessly to Kevin. His face changed as he read it, the color draining away. She's gone, he said, his voice hollow. Mom's left. What do you mean, gone? Megan asked, taking the letter to read for herself. She's moved out. She's staying with Jane. Kevin sank into a chair, the letter trembling in his hands. Grammy's gone. Lucas's lower lip trembled. But why doesn't she love us anymore? Kevin gathered his son into his arms. Of course she loves us, buddy, but I didn't make her feel very loved back. Megan was quiet as she read the letter. Then she noticed my key on the table. She left her key, she said softly. She's really gone. Kevin immediately tried calling me, but I had silenced my phone. He left voicemail after voicemail. Mom, please call me back. We need to talk about this. Please don't do this. As the evening wore on, the reality sank in. Kevin and Megan began to argue. This is because of your text, Kevin said accusingly. You couldn't even ask her politely about the leftovers. This isn't about a text, Megan shot back. You read her letter. This has been building for years, and you never said anything either when we didn't include her in the dinner. Their argument was interrupted by Lucas's tears. I want Grammy, he sobbed. I want Grammy to come home. Over the next 3 days, Kevin called repeatedly. I finally answered on the 4th day, but only to tell him I needed space to think. I'm safe. I'm with Jane. I'll contact you when I'm ready to talk. On the 5th day, Kevin showed up at Jane's apartment. Jane called me from the living room. Esther, Kevin's here. Do you want to see him? I took a deep breath and nodded. Kevin looked terrible when I entered the room. His eyes were red-rimmed, his clothes wrinkled. Mom, he said, his voice breaking. I'm so sorry. We sat on Jane's sofa, and Kevin poured out his heart. I didn't realize how we were making you feel. I got so caught up in trying to keep peace with Megan, in building my career in raising Lucas, that I took you for granted. You stopped seeing me, I said quietly. Both of you. I became the convenient help, not your mother. Kevin couldn't meet my eyes. You're right, and I have no excuse. But Mom, Lucas misses you terribly. He cries for you every night, and I miss you too. And Megan, I asked. Kevin sighed. Megan and I have had some very difficult conversations since you left. She didn't realize how her behavior affected you. Or maybe she did, and didn't want to acknowledge it. But your leaving has been a wake-up call for both of us. I didn't make any promises that day. I told Kevin I needed time to think, and that any relationship moving forward would need to be different. He nodded, understanding, for perhaps the first time, that he couldn't take my presence for granted. We want to make this right, Mom, he said as he left. Please give us a chance. I spent a full week at Jane's enjoying the peace and independence of her apartment. We went shopping, had lunch at our favorite cafe, and talked for hours like we used to in college. There was healing in that time away, in remembering who I was apart from being Kevin's mother or Lucas's grandmother. After that week, I agreed to meet with Kevin, Megan, and Lucas at a park near Jane's apartment. It felt important to meet on neutral ground, not in their home where the power dynamics were so unbalanced. When we arrived, Lucas spotted me immediately and broke away from his parents, running toward me with his arms outstretched. "Grammy, you came back." I knelt down and caught him in a tight hug, my eyes filling with tears. "I've missed you so much, my sweet boy," I whispered, holding him close. Kevin approached next, giving me a gentle hug. Megan hung back, her expression a mixture of embarrassment and uncertainty. We sat at a picnic table while Lucas played nearby on the playground. "Thank you for meeting us," Kevin began. "We've been doing a lot of thinking." Megan cleared her throat. "Esther, I owe you an apology. A big one. I didn't treat you with the respect you deserve. The text about the leftovers was just the latest example of how I've taken you for granted." Her apology seemed genuine, if uncomfortable for her to deliver. "We should have invited you to the dinner," she continued. "There's no excuse for excluding you from a family celebration." Kevin reached for my hand across the table. "We've started seeing a family therapist, Mom. We want to do better. We want you in our lives, but we understand if you need different boundaries." I looked at them both carefully. "I love you both, and I adore Lucas, but I won't return to a situation where I'm not valued or respected. I need to be seen as a person, not just as convenient help." "We understand," Kevin said. "What would make you comfortable moving forward?" We talked for hours that day, working out a new arrangement. I would stay at Jane's apartment for the time being. She had offered to let me rent her spare room, which gave me independence while I figured out my next steps. We established a regular schedule for me to see Lucas, both at Jane's place and at their home. Family dinners would include everyone with hosting responsibilities, rotating between us. And most importantly, we agreed to keep seeing the family therapist to work through the deeper issues. The following months brought gradual healing. Megan and I found a way to communicate more openly. She admitted that she had felt threatened by my close relationship with Kevin and Lucas. "I was insecure," she confessed during one therapy session. "I felt like I was competing with you." Understanding her perspective helped me extend grace, though it didn't excuse the hurtful behavior. For her part, Megan made visible efforts to include me. She began asking for my input on things that mattered, not just expecting my help with tasks. Kevin worked on finding his voice between his wife and his mother. "I should have spoken up when I saw you being hurt," he told me. "I was so afraid of rocking the boat that I let you drown." Lucas perhaps benefited the most from our new arrangement. He now got special Grammy days at Jane's apartment, where we would bake cookies, read stories, and make art projects without any time constraints or interruptions. He also saw a healthier dynamic when we were all together. I eventually found a small apartment of my own, just 10 minutes from both Jane and Kevin's family. It was the first time in years I had a space that was truly mine, decorated to my taste, following my rhythms. The guest house was converted into Kevin's home office with my blessing. The symbolism wasn't lost on any of us. What had been my separate, isolated space became integrated into the fabric of their home and daily life. Our relationship isn't perfect now. We still have disagreements, moments of tension. But the fundamental dynamic has shifted. I am no longer the convenient help living in the backyard. I am Esther, mother, grandmother, woman with her own life and value. Sometimes standing up for yourself means walking away even from those you love most. It's not about punishment or revenge. It's about respect for them and for yourself. In my case, leaving wasn't the end of our family. It was the beginning of a healthier one. Have you ever had to set firm boundaries with family members who took you for granted? How did you handle it? Share your experiences in the comments below. If my story resonated with you, please give it a like and subscribe to hear more about navigating complex family dynamics. And remember, it's never too late to advocate for the respect you deserve. Thank you for listening to my story, and I hope it gives you courage if you're facing similar challenges in your own life.